Welcome to a special edition of the MarTech Matrix podcast. Today we are welcoming Clay Sharman and Katie Spaller into the Matrix. We are going to learn about prospect engagement platforms, what they are, how they work, and why you likely need one. This conversation is a follow-up to Sean's interview with Clay, founder and CEO of Krateo from January 16th, when they discussed the need for brands to own their first-party data now, so they can mine it later as LLMs and AI become the norm. You can catch that conversation at themartechmatrix.com or on your favorite podcast platform. Today, Clay is going to provide an overview and demo of Krateo before they speak with Katie, who is the marketing director at Kenetic, a healthy ketone energy drink that sells directly to consumers from their website. Katie has been with Kenetic for 4 years and managed all aspects of marketing over that time. We will hear about her first-hand experience with Krateo so that our listeners can gain a peer's perspective. Now let's enter the Matrix with Sean, Clay, and Katie.
Clay, Katie, welcome into the Matrix. Love having you here on this special occasion. Let's just jump right in. Clay, tell us at a high level, what was Krateo built to do?
Sure. Yeah. At the highest level, what we were trying to do was optimize the anonymous traffic that goes to every website that our brands, every brand, already is paid for to drive them in. Statistically, 3 to 5%, maybe less, of visitors give meaningful first data information that can be used for marketing. And Krateo focuses on that larger 98 to 95% of that anonymous traffic, with the goal of building profiles around what they look like as individuals from a demographic standpoint, as well as adding site behavior and page analytics to build a real understanding of how they're interacting with the website so that the brands have a way to retarget and re-engage with it.
Makes sense based on the fact that you call it a prospect engagement platform. Why don't we just jump right into the slides and just to give us that some more detail on the product, now we can go into your demo.
The intent of the platform is very simple. It's to help the funnel kind of more effectively build so that the brands like Katie can, kind of engage better and get more personal, frankly, with the audiences that are going to their website and build these deeper relationships with this prospect audience. And then the goal, of course, is to turn these prospects into customers. So very quickly, it's a little bit of an oversimplified process for the purpose of the conversation. But, step one for us is to identify as much of that anonymous traffic that comes into a URL as we can. And right now, we're seeing that we can get started with maybe 15 to 25 times more prospects than typical sign up or form fill invitations off a website will generate. Where things get interesting for us is when we can find an email that we've identified as an anonymous visitor and then pair that with demographic data and build out a profile that becomes very rich in terms of the analytic power. Because once we build this profile, suddenly our brands and customers are able to speak very directly to these anonymous prospects by name and then segment them by oftentimes demographic attributes like age, income, gender, things that you wouldn't typically be able to pull from a straight up form to mention.
Okay, quick question. So on the identity piece, you're able to identify users on a website without a third-party cookie, or not a cookie at all.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So they don't use any third-party data sources for our identification process. So that way, when the cookies go away, this is still a workable technology that's built on first-party only sources.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll move on because we're going to get to the engagement piece. The whole point of the prospect engagement is the engagement of the platform. So very quickly, what you'll see here are sort of the data sources and outcomes that we aspire to generate for every visitor. What we're really trying to do is turn every prospect into a potential customer for our brand partner. So on the left side of the screen here, we identify through the anonymous email traffic. Once we have an email, we try to match them with as much demographic data as we can. We also then pair that information with site behavior, so we can tell you, how often they come to your site over a period of time, and also tell you the pages, the very specific pages that they visited during that time. So very much a Google Analytics aspect of things too. So you don't miss out on anything from this perspective, and it becomes important as we round out the profile. All of this is expanded for a dashboard, and it begins to flesh out this profile of an actual individual. So in this case, this side of the thing to build out the email name and some behavior analytics. Where we get into the intent and the demographic data beyond that is when you're looking at things from campaign response. So once you've got this and you run some campaigns, Krateo will track response to those campaigns. And our models will then begin to determine patterns and trends that allow us to look into product interests and buyer preferences. All of that rounds out the profile. And what ultimately the goal is for brands to be able to apply this type of detailed profile by individual across any sales channel that they're working through. It works pretty simply, right? It's a JavaScript tag, so everybody at this point likely is familiar with the concept of tag technology. Some implementation is fast. Once the site visitor comes in, immediately Krateo goes to work identifying and matching and pairing that data to build this profile, which then gets fed to the dashboard. And at that point, it can be directly fed to any number of your sales channels for you to run the campaigns against. It's that simple, and it's an automated process that happens frictionless and almost seamlessly. So there's the Kate could talk to this as well. There's no manual process that has to occur by the behind end of this stage. This is all done through the platform. And then once we start seeing results of those sales channels, it goes back to work, analyzing and looking for patterns and trends. And then the whole goal of our tool is to deliver these actionable insights that marketers can immediately understand. So everything that we do is delivered in a narrative format, very easy to digest and take, straight to execution. That's the end goal, because what we really want to become is more of a team member than just a platform. So we think of it, if we do our jobs right, Krateo becomes a subject matter expert on prospect and consumer behavior over the course of time. So that's really kind of the main thrust of things. Kate is going to get more into some of the impacts of what Krateo has done for Kenetic, but the upshot is, typically we see a dramatic increase in prospect funnel, a dramatic increase in the personalized profiles that we can build. All of that winds up equating to a reduction in prospect acquisition costs, which can be significant when you talk about the retargeting efforts. A secondary customer who uses it was looking at things from a slightly different perspective, although it turns out I think he's going to be able to talk at some length about this as well. But where we focused here was what was the engagement outcomes. And so this particular customer saw a 7.3 times increase in the click-through rates once they started targeting through audience segmentation. So that was a major increase. And then that equated to a 200% increase in revenue based on their current campaign performance. So over a very short time, they saw some major increases here. And I'd like to remind everybody that we talk about this too. These results will improve over time as the system gets smarter, because it's built to be a continuously learning AI platform. And then the last thing we talk about, Sean, is the use cases that current audiences are using it or customers are using it for, which is segmentation, targeted emailing, targeted advertising, and then you start to get into the ability now to personalize customer experience. You can start looking at where your website is, succeeding and failing in terms of landing messages and content, or if you're excluding an audience, then you should be including that kind of stuff. And then strategy really comes into play.
So is it fair to say that you're basically helping brands build a dossier on every user that comes to their website, so that at any given time they're able to speak to them like they know them, right? So what they shop for, who they are, where they live, what they look like in terms of their demographic profile. Just like somebody, they were walking into my store, I would be able to introduce myself and get, leave my list of information from my conversation. Now I can build on that over time.
Right, that's exactly right. What we found even from the thinking head sort of think tank groups like Forbes or Gartner, the consumer demand for brands is to provide more personalization, get to know them better, reduce the clutter of a misfired campaign message. And so, we think that what you just said should be the core message of what we're trying to deliver, which is, can we give Katie enough information so that she can talk to every one of her customers like they're an old friend, right? So really build a relationship rather than just see everybody as a straight up transaction.
All right. How does this align with privacy laws? I mean, specifically CCPA in the U.S., but how does this jive with what CCPA says you can and can't do?
Yeah, that's probably the most important question that we face from prospects when we talk to them, and that's certainly the most important thing that we consider right out of the gate. So I think it's important to remember that website traffic is first-party data in the sense that it was initiated by a visitor to take the time to go to a site. So once they're on your site, they are effectively first-party data. Awesome, right? And then the question is, can you catch them? So what we tell our customers, and he knows this, is, use your consent banner at the front of the screen to get buy-in that you're going to collect marketing data. It's not a requirement to use the consent banner, but it certainly makes things black and white in terms of compliance if you do so. And so once somebody opts in, whether they expressly opt in or they imply opt in, we can begin collecting data on them. So the way we comply, though, with that, Sean, in your great case is if you voluntarily opt out of data collection, you don't collect it. So, and each state is kind of learning about data privacy, but CCPA remains sort of the industry standard. And so we continue to watch, and we can evolve with evolving privacy as well, if that's what it takes.
But hey, Kate, let me ask you, from your experience when you onboarded with Krateo, what was your company's perspective on privacy and CCPA, and how are you handling that going forward?
So, I mean, there's definitely like a lot of responsibility that falls to not just companies like Krateo, but also the brand when it comes to how the data is being used and collected. And so we're really sensitive about privacy. We make sure that our privacy policies are up to date and are also willing to evolve as the laws change. Like, based on how extensive Clay dives into the current state of privacy, we felt really comfortable with what we're doing with Krateo from that angle, and also just how intelligently we're leveraging the data and only using it to communicate with the most high intent customers. So it doesn't the communications and relationships that we're building don't come across as spammy.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and do you, if user were to come to your site today, do they receive that pop-up, or is it just something you place in your privacy policy, so that if they go there and read that, they'll see what you can do?
So we've currently got it in our privacy policy, and our web team, we just went through a big website overhaul in the last few months, so our web team is going to be getting that pop-up back up and running in the next week or two.
Okay, cool. Okay. Clay, you want to move on to your demo of the platform?
I do, yeah. So this will be very brief and short, but here we are looking at an actual dashboard filled with pinhole data. So it's a look at of a collection of the users that they have on the site. They're protected and kind of hatched out for compliance and such just for face. But at the highest level, we consider this for the visitor or audience identification screen. So in this case, the system identified this number of total prospects over the last quarter, and it's has context for the backstory. This is a customer that gets about 25,000 web visitors a month and expects to get about 700, 800 signups every month, and that's what they've been getting kind of historically over the last 3 years. So this quarter, they would expect to see anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 signups over this month, and so we were able to resolve 37,000 leads that. So we gave them a needed 12x or higher, somewhere between 12 and 19x, depending on their traffic. Emails. And so it breaks down emails. In this case, we got a great sort of breakdown of it, because 23% we only could find emails for, and those emails you can see here at each level, or each, in this case, every 6 days. And then we found 74% where we got easy prospects. So this is a great ratio for us. We'd love to see this across all of our customers, be that 3-to-1. And all this means is we got emails, plus we got this great demographic data for people to leverage and begin using for personalization and segmentation. I think it's important to note, we also get UDD prospect data as well, so you don't have to pick and choose. We're not your proposition, you get both. So in this case, you see the emails of the visitors, plus you get information on their company, their LinkedIn profile, contact information, title within the company, so on and so forth. Over here, this goes back to a little bit of the engagement aspect of things. So here we have single visit versus multi-visit versus, in this case, 6+ visits. So you could, as a starting point, you could simply segment by this right here and just determine I'm going to send a nurture campaign for people who came 6+ times, because you could assume higher intent or interest. Down here, though, is where it really gets cool, because now we're inside of their visit. And looking at these are people who just came one time, people who came multiple times in a single day, and so on and so forth. Single time there were multiple days, and then this to me would be the money shot. Multiple visit over multiple days. You could assume the highest level of interest at that point. But you could segment across any number of these, or you can segment here. It's a very simple export down, or you can segment here. It's the same thing. Well, now if you get into the information itself, if you have demographic data, this is where I think it's get cool, because now you can slice and dice the data. So any consumer can begin to look at their audience. This anonymous audience has now been kind of now is addressable, I should say. So we targeted them in a way that now we know something about them. So you can look at things by age range, income range, gender, marital status, so on and so forth. You have that exact same feature functionality for B2B, but here we're looking at some different attributes again for you to study. So seniority level, the department that they work in, company size by employees, that kind of stuff. And then you can see when the report is pulled, there's other things like industry and profile, mobile number that you can also pull. So you get a reach report for B2B as well. This is the sort of that's not the left side of the screen that I showed from the podcast side. So this would be what we did announce, the demographic profiling and the site engagement. You get into this side, now we're looking at things strictly from a behavior analysis standpoint. What are these people doing by campaign, by response? And so this is where stuff is pretty cool, because the system auto-generates in accordance to what it can tell from behavior. So in this case, you see it opens across this whole email chain. This is the open rate here. It opened. You can see that ages, that age 45 to 54 with this learning have the highest propensity to open. And I can also, it looks like there's 5 personas here. So now we see a second group of attributes or personas here: without children, non-homeowners, and so on and so forth. So you can look and begin to piece together pictures. And then right over here, the system is looking for anything that's statistically relevant. Like, is it good or bad? So, married visitors more likely to open is great, more likely to open is great, more likely to open, more likely to open. This is the kind of stuff you must see. You can send the things by kind of the open rate if you wanted to look not just by gender age group. If you wanted to look by an individual one, you could. You just wanted to look by income, you could. And so you just change it in the screen, you just there. This is the only other thing I'll talk about. We'll move past this, and then we can go over the more interesting stuff with Katie. But we also collect data on the last channel that logged into the site. So you can see if there's paid search or campaigns that brought you in. That's critical, obviously, when you start looking at sales channel optimization. This is a very basic form of it, but it's important because we can start to draw some insights from this as well. And then the last thing that we'll go over here quickly is the ability to generate a very unique, specific report based on the attributes that you want to execute against. So rather than have to filter at the Excel file level, you can set up your own report. And if I'm just interested in age range, and I have a very specific age range, and because, maybe you want to see what 45-54 looks like. And yes, I want them to have children. And so I say yes. And so that's all I want to see. I refresh. Then it pulls me this list. This is a curated list of 625 prospects. I can save this as, 45 of the children. And it's simple.
So you just created your targeting list, and now it is to get coursed directly into any marketing channel.
You just export it to whatever the channel that you set up is to your target. You can also, of course, include filters on that page you use, the days visited, and the unique page visited, so you could filter this even further down if you chose to. Important thing is here, I saved this, and I'm not going to recreate this at any point later in the platform, and then ultimately next week we'll be releasing the ability to set a schedule of duration. So this could be a daily drop, this could be a weekly drop, this could be a monthly drop. And you can set as many of these audience exports as you want in order to use for execution.
So, Katie, when you were speaking a few minutes ago, you said that you guys are really smart and thoughtful about how you use the data. Are you using these tools to help create your audiences that you're focused on, the most engaged, or and targeting your messaging based on their engagement? Is this how you're doing it?
So that's how we're building the lists, and then that's how we're establishing the different levels of intent and the different kinds of intent. The campaign 360 is also like a really big part of what we use. But essentially, there are some people, like, you get so many prospects with Krateo that there's some people that you don't want to communicate to right off the bat, because that's going to negatively affect your deliverability and your engagement metrics. But using the tool that they've built to refine these reports, you can be really smart about the people that you're speaking to in so many ways. So this is how I'll build new segments to import into Klaviyo or ESP to really refine our messaging over there, or build audiences to expand some of our paid media marketing audiences.
It feels like you could take the slower engaged people, maybe not get rid of them, but maybe put them as part of a social, like a mirror upper funnel social campaign, where you're sort of just branding a little bit more, right?
Yeah,
More comfortable.
we use that to build brand awareness. So we put them at top of funnel, we build more brand awareness. So by the time they come back to site and are visiting multiple pages across multiple days, then we can reach out to them directly. So that feels like a much more natural evolution of the relationship that we're building with them, because that's our biggest focus, is we use Krateo to evolve how we communicate with our customers, to really establish that trust and loyalty and value with the brand.
I mean, you create these different segments. Are you creating different messaging? So based on the quads they looked at, or how engaged they were, or the demographic data, or anything else? Is it unique messaging?
It definitely varies, but we have Kenetic is a really niche product that has myriad benefits for just about everybody. But that expands everyone who's like looking for a caffeine alternative, to people who are concerned about neurodegenerative diseases. Because ketones are your brain's favorite fuel source. And so I definitely leverage the age data, honestly. So we communicate to our older audience in a slightly different way. So we communicate to our 55 plus audience a little differently than we communicate to our 35 to 55 audience.
I guess you probably can glean more information based on content that you read on the website as well.
Really dive into that. It's awesome.
Yeah. Quite, I'm curious. In the intro, we talked about, or we mentioned the AI LLM component to this. Take us through, or just try to paint the picture with words, what that looks like a year from now. I don't know how long you've been working with Katie, but like, is the idea that you'll be able to take all this data that you're showing us in aggregate and then mine it, or will it automatically surface insights on its own? How should someone expect to leverage that data 6, 12, 18 months from the time they start?
Yeah, so I mean, like anything, when you feed the platform with interactivity, it grows more intelligent, and so it is a real learning platform from that perspective. So not just machine learning, but the AI component also learns and trains. So I think it's a great question because over time, we like the number. I'd love for it to be 6 months. It's probably closer to 12. The system will shift over from common insights to confident recommendations. So then at that point, once it moves into recommendation engine, it is servicing what it's seeing going on. And you might be simply able to prompt it with a, hey, what are you seeing today about our campaigns that we should be paying attention to? And then the system will address that very specifically with what it sees going on across the campaign ecosystem. So yeah, where it is today, take it as it's a primary school, and as it works through, it'll speed through high school and college and become a graduate student before you know it, and then ultimately it's the expert that you're going to for information.
How do you, I'm not getting this question, I'm going to ask you, but how do your clients think about ROI, right? Because it seems like the use is going to be different as time goes by, or it's going to get better as time goes by because you have more data. How do they evaluate ROI, say, in the first month versus 6 month versus the 12 months?
Right, that's a great question. Actually, that's probably the hardest question to the barrier for us. I think of it as a swimming pool, right? So you're going to go in the shallow end of the pool is as your prospect funnel has it grown, significantly with people that we pull from directly through that, etc. So at that point, you look at things like deliverability, bounce rate, and unsubscribe as your sort of your metrics. So you see the numbers against what you expect to see with a cold list the way it used to be. And then probably the more important ROI factor in that first month is, are you seeing a significant increase in the number of profiles that have been built around these emails that you suddenly can segment by particular, beyond just a site behavior analytic? Now you can segment by demographic. So in Katie's case, age, she's got the ability to segment by age. So ROI from that standpoint for our role would be increase the funnel significantly with good emails that can be used for retargeting, but then build profiles around a significant number of those. Again, 75 would be our target. If we could do a 3-to-1 on every email that comes in, that's winning the fight. And then the campaign results, start filtering back and the insights start generating. So ROI in the first month is more about volume increases across those two metrics. ROI in month 2 or 3 is campaign analysis, in my mind, where you're starting to see unbiased views where the machine learning aspect of things is just simply presenting you with insightful metrics and personas that you can now use again to further target. And then months 4 to 6, the machine is starting to really kind of roll into the role of persona development and audience segmentation. So that there's a confidence on both sides that what's coming out of it is not just useful and actionable, but accurate. And then, the second half of the year is all about those insights being kind of tested so that the machine gets this level of confidence that my insights really should flip to recommendations. So, it is very much an evolving thing. It's a walk, crawl, run model. And really, I would say it's a, walk, crawl, run sprint, because we think we can go really far, really fast once the confidence ratings hit at a certain threshold.
But do you think about the same way, or how are you guys evaluating your investment?
Definitely thinking about it in a very similar way. Like, I think right off the bat, the value is in that increased prospect volume because you're identifying the previously lost opportunities. And then as you kind of learn how you're going to use the insights that you're generating, and it then graduates to you're looking at improvement in your engagement metrics, your open rates and click-through rates and conversion rates are higher. And then over time, it really builds up to like increasing that customer lifetime value because you're really nurturing that relationship with that user and they become you can convert them from not customers into one-time purchasers into returning customers. And that's really where it's at for us.
I make sure you track it all. When you first started working with Pretty, was there a specific problem you were trying to solve for, or did they just show up at your doorstep and be like, we can do this for you? And you were like, this sounds cool? Or was there a real, like, was there a pain point that they were really, speaking to that you had?
So it was the potential to, because again, Kenetic is a ketone beverage. It really, like, our core users were early adopters were all keto dieters and intermittent fasters, because they're the people that are making their own ketones. And so they know exactly what it is. They understand the science behind it. And so we wanted to learn more about them, but also expand our customer base by figuring out who the people that were coming to site that were just curious, that we needed to educate a little bit more. That's kind of where it started, because we really want to build brand awareness and that trust and loyalty and grow our community to bring our product to a wider market.
So what was the most interesting thing you learned as you started to talk to a broader audience? What did you learn about the people that were shopping for your product? Were they exactly who you thought they were?
Not exactly. Like, there were definitely some that fell into those buckets of what we had known, but it was really interesting seeing with all of the data that we were getting, that it's really more that high performing professional, like making a slightly higher income, someone who is slightly younger than our original demographic, who cares about longevity but also cares about their performance on a day-to-day basis. And so realizing that was so pivotal last year, because it helped us refine our messaging, refine our branding, and we overhauled the brand at the end of last year. And it was with leveraging a lot of the insights from Krateo, and we've seen great success with that.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting when a brand says, my ideal customer is this. But there are products that I buy, that my wife buys, but we buy them for completely different reasons, right? For me, it might be convenience, for her, it might be fashion or price or whatever. I don't know. But I think it's important to understand the different groups and why they buy, so you can speak to them the right way. You give you a bunch of analogies, but I won't.
People can really get stuck on that. And then I think where Krateo comes in is, like, you can hypothesize like what your other potential target users are going to be, but Krateo helps you validate that and really lean into those learnings.
So we also talked earlier about first party data, and with third party cookies going away, it's everyone's everyone's mind. Half never gone, I would say. The rest are going away. Is this something that you're thinking about, and how important is it for you to own own the data about your customers?
I mean, it's an ever increasingly important thing to be able to own that data. And, like, having the first party data gives us greater control over our compliance with privacy regulations as they evolve, but it helps us build resilience in our marketing, so that when those cookies do go away, we have systems in place to continue to expand our prospect pool.
I imagine it's important, not just from a marketing perspective, but just from I think it makes brands smarter. I think for years they were just licensing out so many things, so many components of a marketing strategy to third parties, and because it was cheaper, it was easier, but they weren't collecting the data, and the third party was, and now they're being forced to do it themselves, and they're realizing, hey, this is pretty cool. There's some good stuff in here that we can leverage to make our business better. Earlier, you mentioned, you guys are segmenting audiences in a really smart way. Can you elaborate on sort of what you saw in the data that led to how you were segmenting the audiences, and maybe share some of the learnings that you found during that process?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of my favorite data points to leverage are the site behavior data points, because I think that is the best indicator of level of intent. So it's been really interesting to see who are the people that fall into the single page visits over the course of a few days. Like, if someone is just looking at our product page, or someone is just looking at the science page, there's a moderate intent to purchase, or a moderate level of curiosity, and, like, we need to engage those users in a very different way, because there's a big burden of education with our product. And so being able to understand who falls into those different pools allows us to engage in a lot more meaningful way and support the buying process throughout.
So what are some other ways that you leverage that data, right? So there's some clearly the segmentation of the audiences, but how are you executing? Are you Clay showed all the different places you can push the data. Are you using it for the personalized experience on the website? So on a certain segment, I'm going to get driven sort of a certain way, or are you using it for social media advertising, for email marketing, for display, for the other channel? Like, how do you use it?
So so it's when we started working with Krateo, I was primarily only using it in email marketing. And that is really the bread and butter of what I use the platform for. But we've really expanded into using it in our social media advertising and building out basically the entire funnel, like expanding that, because we have so much more insights and so much more control over that data than what Facebook is ever going to give us. But I think the most fascinating way that I think we've used it is we've used it to refine our messaging across every touch point. So it's refined our creative, it's refined our help us refine our website. Yeah. You can really leverage it at every touch point.
I love it because you're making the point that like with Facebook, and he's making you less reliant on Meta and less reliant on Google because you know exactly what your customers are doing, how they got to your website, when they left, when they came back, as opposed to just saying they were there, sort of an ad. You understand which ones are the most engaged, and then you can spend your money more efficiently, not only by targeting the right users, but by putting the right message in front of them. I think that's really crucial. So are there any other like insights that you gleaned from? I mean, we talked about the obvious ones that Clay mentioned, right? Like you get an email address, you get their income, where they live. But in terms of your business, were there any other insights that sort of popped that were relevant to your business?
I think the most exciting and useful thing that we've learned is in the B2B data set, 'cause we're a direct to consumer company. So I was originally only looking at the email prospects and then the enriched B2C prospects, because that was really our bread and butter. But the B2B prospects, especially as we've grown as a company, have given us some interesting wholesale opportunities to really expand that segment of the business. Because we do a lot of work with like longevity groups, and we can dive into the B2B data, and we can find groups that are similar to that, and we can apply the model that we've established to those businesses. And even though it is still a cold outreach, like we can understand how they want to engage with the product, and we wouldn't have known about these smaller companies otherwise. That's been fun.
That's cool. Sorry. So you're actually growing the business in different directions based on the data, like B2B wasn't one way, or thinking of maybe initially have it out, but now because the data is there, I guess the same can be said for any consumer packaged company selling direct to consumer. If they're thinking about expanding into local markets or sort of into physical retail, understanding where their core audience is probably aligned with who's going to be buying their product offline. Maybe not, but the data really gives them a better place to start than cold. I'm guessing, where we belong. It's fascinating. Anything else to add in terms of maybe what you learned working with Kenetic? What has taught you about your business?
Yeah, actually, there's a lot we've learned from Katie specifically because, one of the things that she was game for early on was the application of intelligence to this list and an understanding out of the gate. I think it's important for everybody that we talk to and understand. This was a giant group of undecideds on your website. They weren't persuaded to take the action you had hoped they would take, but they had no idea if that was because the doorbell rang or they run late to something or they, just forgot. And so, one of the things that Katie did early on was explore, kind of be open to exploring what does it mean, how do we re-engage, and we started collaborating back and forth in a lot of meaningful discussions over what does it mean to nurture a group of undecideds, because this is new territory for all of us, right? And so in this case, Katie was able to prove out some hypotheses that we had about that give, ask model for nurturing a potential customer and build that relationship with them. So, what we're excited for from a Katie's perspective is as they continue to kind of push in on the platform now on the results of campaign analysis side and the audience export intelligent reporting features, they're going to be able to supercharge what the tool can become in terms of insights and outputs, at a rate that I think will surprise them. It's hopefully surprises even me because I have my expectations for it, but until we get there, I want to be able to see what's possible with it. And what I think we're discovering is there really is no ceiling in terms of what the system can learn over time. It's and what's perfect about it is whatever Katie turns it into, it's to be uniquely Kenetic. It's not something that we can lift up and apply to somebody else. But that figures for every brand. It'll become unique to that brand.
Yeah, I was thinking just as we're wrapping that up, like with third-party companies, like I mean, I work for Krateo and I was with Brace Warning in the retargeting space, and we would just look at what someone looked at, and then we'd serve our products to them based on what they looked at, and we own the data, we knew what publishers they went to, and we didn't share any of that information with the brand. And quite frankly, I don't think anyone really asked. They were just happy to get the clicks and the conversions, but they were probably missing out on so many more potential conversions by not speaking to different people differently based on where they were at in that purchase funnel. And so I think I like what you said there about it's uniquely Kenetic, or it's really uniquely for each brand. It's their data, it's their customers, it's their relationships. They shouldn't be licensing that out to a third party on the data, and that's the world we live in. I think it's what consumers expect.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a trust us model from the third party side. But I think, what's happened is we're seeing, honestly, first off, the whole reason data privacy and compliance laws came into play is because the trust us model from third parties didn't work. The brand ownership of the data is critical in order to reestablish that trust and loyalty. And I think when you think about your own personal relationships, you wouldn't outsource that to somebody else to manage it for you. You'd take it in-house and build it for yourself. And so we think transparency with our brands and giving them all of the data is the best way for them to go right out to their customer and prove you can trust us with this data. And in doing so, we're going to get to know you way better than we ever did before. And that's the mid-term.
Yeah. Is there something there?
It just being able to build, like, have the control of that data and being really pragmatic about how you're leveraging it not only allows you to build that trust and that loyalty, but it really gives you the opportunity to add so much more value in that relationship, which works out for all of us in the long term.
Yeah. Love it. But let's end it there because that's a perfect note to end it on. And we will we'll share this recording with all of the participants, and we'll post it on the website. And if there's any questions for Clay or for Dee, I'll put a link on the website as well where you can submit questions and make sure one of them gets back to you as well. I'll even include their email addresses if they approve. From a privacy perspective.
Absolutely.
And I'll leave it there. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks so much, John.
This episode of the MarTech Matrix was brought to you by the Cogent Collective, a community of marketing and e-commerce leaders. Learn more at cogentcollective.com. For show notes and information on upcoming episodes, head on over to the martechmatrix.com. If you would like to learn more about the companies appearing on this podcast and see if they're a good fit for your company, send Sean a note at sean@cogentcollective.com. New episodes of the MarTech Matrix podcast will drop every Monday, so be sure to subscribe with your favorite podcast network so you can stay on top of what's happening in the Matrix.